Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it is time for a metabolic conditioning or general physical preparedness workout, depending upon which decade's terminology we use. They're basically the same thing. I had someone ask me, Jason, what's the difference? They're the same thing. This is a pretty good chunk of my conditioning for today. I'm probably going to film 2 or 3 of these every week, at least get the main stuff in, because a lot of times, even on my off days, I don't always do the farmer's walks. I try to only do the farmer's walks on my non-lifting days, mainly because they do put a fair amount of axial loading on me, and I just don't want to do them after doing my other heavy stuff. But a lot of times, like chin-ups, dips, sometimes the step-ups, sometimes the glute ham raises, stuff like that I do every day. And I mean, long term, I have goals of certain numbers I want to reach, and I think like yesterday, because it was a max squat day, I just did the upper body stuff, honestly. But I think I did around 70 chin-ups and 70 dips afterwards, whereas you guys saw the Sunday stuff. So, a few questions that people have about these things. First of all, yes, I do more stuff after this. So definitely chin-ups and dips, I'm going to do more than just what you see here, because this is only 4 sets. And I try to do a lot of those. I'm trying to do a lot of chin-ups and a lot of dips, mainly because I need just the extra upper body work in general. And I mean, if you do tons and tons of chin-ups, tons and tons of dips, I don't care where you're at in your training, your upper body is going to get thicker. And for me, I need that exercise. I really need the extra chest and tricep and all that. My bench is my worst lift in terms of my big 3. And I just simply need more size in the right places. I need that extra lower chest. I need more tricep. I need those things. But we address them more specifically in the main training, but I'm letting the dips do most of my extra chest work. You know what? Because I do a ton of dips. And I weigh 220. It's not like I'm not getting a lot of work. And I try to do them somewhat wide on my bars to make them emphasize the pecs a little more. And I'll probably get even wider and get further down the bars eventually, just to make sure that area gets worked more over time as I build work capacity. But a few questions have come up with some of this. Number one, where did I get the Farmer's Walks handles? Those are made by Titan Fitness. Most of my gym is Rogue, right? Most of my gym is Rogue. I have a few pieces of Titan, mainly things that I feel like the quality for the money is a better choice than Rogue. It's not that the Rogue may not be better. It's that some of the Rogue stuff costs quite a bit more, and I'm so heavily invested in them. I just didn't want to spend an extra grand in their stuff on some of it. So a couple of my bars are Titan. A couple of my bars are TDS. My glute ham raise is Titan. My Farmer's Walk handles are Titan. Those Farmer's Walk handles are about $70 on Amazon, and they'll hold a lot of weight. So for people who were curious, they're easy to get, Titan Fitness. Now, the amount of weight on them, it might be deceiving because people are used to handles weighing a lot. Those handles weigh 9 pounds a piece. So if you do the math with the plates I have on there, those color-coded plates, it's 164 pounds per hand a day, which is not a massive amount of weight. Not a massive amount of weight, but I've been doing group training every day, and so that gets fatiguing just for the walks for me. To the point to where even just doing those walks, because I did grip work with my pinch blocks last night, and I'm trying to do more and more of that. They actually limit a little bit of what I feel like I can even do on the chin-ups. Like I can do a lot more than the chin-ups I'm doing. I mean, I do up to 100 every day. The issue though is that right after doing the farmer's carries, the grip can really start to add up hanging from that chin-up bar, right? Especially when you try to get the hands all the way under like I do, because it's easier on your tendons. Now let's come over to the point. I had said before also, because that came up as well, and I felt like that needs to be discussed. I had said, well, people thought it was recently, but it wasn't. That video was actually a month old. I have tons of extra informative videos. They don't come out sometimes for weeks, where I put any sort of supinated grip in my exercise graveyard. And generally that's going to be the case. Now, what people are going to notice, I don't quite lock at the bottom on these, especially that left arm. By not doing that and not going super heavy, that is how I'm getting away with it. Because what is it I've said? For me, with the old injury, I get tendonitis really, really easy in my bicep tendons. To the point to where you're not going to see me doing underhand grip curls again. If I do, it'll be with a band. I don't want to be anywhere near the bottom with a heavy underhand grip. It's the inflammation that builds up gets so bad that I can't even squat. Same thing. I used to do heavy underhand grip weighted chin-ups. You guys have seen me do it with up to 100 pounds from a dead hang. problem there is that it's a problem for my tendons. It's particularly a lot of guys over about 30, 35. A lot of other guys I know notice the same thing. That bicep tendon can get delicate when you're moving a lot of weight. And when you weigh over 200 pounds, 100-pound weighted chin-ups from a dead hang's a lot of weight. Starts to add up. So what I'm doing is I'm doing submaximal sets. I'm not taking to chin-ups to failure. We're not doing heavy weighted chins, and I'm just barely skipping that little bit of lockout at the bottom. All right, we're getting enough to where we're getting a bicep training, because people need to understand the bicep doesn't just move the elbow. It also has shoulder extension involved. That's one of the functions of it. It's still getting decent bicep training in, and here's what we come over to. If our goal is purely hypertrophy, you know what? Full range of motion matters. Cutting a little bit of range of motion could reduce the amount of hypertrophy you get per rep and per set. There's reasonable evidence on that. But at a certain point, sheer workload wins out. At a certain point, just sheer workload wins out. I mean, when you eventually start looking at the numbers, if you start doing 300, 400 or more chin-ups every single week, and you're like me, I mean, I weigh 220. So for some of the smaller guys, some of you guys who are like 170, all right, imagine strapping a 45 or 50 pounds on and doing hundreds of them every week. It adds up. It's a lot of work. So I'm still getting a good hypertrophic effect, even if I'm going to shortchange just a little bit of the range of motion. Again, if I was trying to get quality sets, and I want people to understand the difference between conditioning work and actually trying to maximize growth. I was trying to maximize growth. That last couple inches matters. It can affect potential growth. But at a certain point, this is just sheer volume, because again, it's conditioning work. So what's going on here is that people understand what's up with Metcon or GBP. Even when we're doing stuff like this, we're doing submaximal sets in a circuit. And the idea is that we're using resistance exercises, and this can be done in a lot of different ways. It can be done with barbell complexes. I'm just doing weighted carries and body weight type movements that train my whole body sequentially. Pretty much every muscle in my body got worked here, right? There's not a single muscle that didn't get worked. And I'm doing them in a sequence in a way that sustains me moving and keeping my heart rate elevated for, about 3 minutes. Right? It's a pretty good amount of conditioning there. You're conditioning yourself using strength training exercises in a large volume in a sequence. It's metabolic conditioning. It has a hypertrophic effect, a workload effect, and it has a very pronounced cardiovascular effect. It's just that in this case, if someone were just sprinting or just doing one movement for their cardio, they're going to have muscular limitations that are going to prevent them from sustaining it. In this case, because I'm taking a number of big, large muscles and I'm working them in a different sequence, none of them are reaching complete exhaustion, but they are working under load. They are working under a fairly large amount of resistance, back to back to back, but keeping my breathing deep, my heart rate elevated, so that we improve conditioning. And what this does, this improves your cardiovascular conditioning, and it improves your strength stamina, and it improves your ability to recover from training, to clear waste products. It gets you in better shape, because if you have better conditioning like this, what happens when we go to stuff like the speed days? And a lot of that work density that gets done on some of the conjugate training I do. If you're in good shape, you can pack more work in quicker because you recover faster. And if you're recovering faster between those sets because you've improved your conditioning and work capacity and ability to clear waste products, you can do more work density. All right, that will affect your strength, your growth, everything else. So this is what I generally recommend these days for cardio. Okay, and now people can say what they want, but when I used to do list cardio, I wasn't in as good a shape as I am now. And I mean, the body fat's even coming down, and I'm not cutting, I'm not losing weight. And a lot of people are noticing I'm slowly getting leaner. Obviously, I still have that loose skin and a bit of fat around the waistline, but even that is slowly shrinking. It still has a ways to go because I'm not cutting. I'm pretty well eating maintenance calories. So I'm burning through a massive, absolutely massive amount of calories on a daily basis. My maintenance calories are like 4,000 a day right now. because of all of the training and all the conditioning, plus my body weight, energy turnover. It's pretty high. So I'm staying at maintenance and just recomping. But that's what happens if you get on the right diet and your training loads go high enough. Interesting things happen with nutrient partitioning in the body. And so I am getting a recomposition effect. And here's what I would say with a lot of that. I mean, compare this to the list cardio. When you think about the hypertrophic effect, the carryover to your training, this is vastly superior. Metabolic conditioning work for anyone who needs to be really in shape, I think is better, unless you're going to do an endurance sport. If you're going to do an endurance sport, you need sport specificity of really serious list cardio. But for me, I just need to be strong and powerful and have good body composition and be able to recover. This style of conditioning is vastly superior for my goals. And that would include most forms of sports. Right? It's not just for me, for what I do. I mean, this sort of conditioning work works for a football player, a rugby player, a baseball player, basketball player, right? Because this is sports type conditioning. If you want to be more athletic, this is what the sort of cardio you need to do. And I'm not saying the exact way I'm doing it, because there's different ways to approach metabolic conditioning. I could go do other stuff. I could do other forms of it that still get the same effect. You could go set up a barbell. You could go do a sled drag and then followed up with a set of barbell complexes, right? So when you think of it, something like CrossFit's based completely on metabolic conditioning. Their whole routine, if you want to call it that, is random metabolic conditioning work. A lot of those people get into shape. If you want cardio that's going to help you be athletic, this is what you need to do. And it balances with everything else that I do, because what are my other training modalities? I do max effort work every week. We do dynamic effort work every week, which also includes weighted plyometrics. And I do repetition work for hypertrophy, additional hypertrophy in all my weak areas. The whole idea is to get strong, maximally explosive, with good body composition and good conditioning and recovery. All right, these things all fit together. So when people try to ask, hey, I mean, you do seem to be doing pretty good these days, you're progressing along well, you know, what's the secret? It's like, it's the combination, right? All four of those training factors together with a good stress management lifestyle. And that includes the social environment, who I choose to allow in my life. All of that has to be part of it. Blocking out and ignoring nonsense, that's part of it. Working on my own emotional and mental health. All right, all of those factors. And then on top of it, even my diet. And that's another thing I'm going to discuss more and more. People try to say, oh, you don't know anything about diet. It's like, well, now I'm getting stronger and bigger and leaner in my 40s. I think I do know a little bit about diet. And a lot of people just aren't going to want to hear what I say about diet. But it is all about the higher fat animal products. I eat an animal-based diet. And even these days, I drink a gallon of whole milk every day. And other than the large amount of green vegetables I eat, everything else is from an animal. That's what I eat. Stuff from animals. And no, it's not lean. Combined with large amounts of green vegetables. It's not necessarily keto, even though I stay kind of on the edge of ketosis because of the milk. Meat and eggs, whole eggs. A lot of protein, a lot of fat. And piles of green vegetables. No junk food, no processed stuff. And I do believe that matters. I think all of that matters. And I think the fact that it's animal source matters. I think it's the most anabolic. And if every calorie you're eating is as anabolic as possible, and your energy turnover is through the roof, and you're stimulating large amounts of training, large amounts of adaptation, it matters. I'd say to a lot of you guys out there, if you're looking for the magic pill to give you the closest thing you're going to get to running gear without using gear, then you might want to look into that. Get your conditioning up. And I mean strength-based conditioning. Do large amounts of general physical preparedness, which is just ass-busting hard work day in and day out, in addition to a structured training program and massive amounts of whole milk and eggs to make up all the calories that you burn. You want a combination that's going to create nutrient partitioning, and muscle protein synthesis. Well, there you go. There you go. Because you build your work capacity. You build your ability to recover with all of it. But there's no shortcuts with that. There really isn't. And that's what I have to do. That's, again, I train hard these days. And I'm going to keep moving forward. We're going to get bigger. We're going to get a hell of a lot stronger. And I'm going to get leaner. But it's just by putting in this work every single day. So like what you guys see here, like a lot of people are like, oh, I think I could do that. Well, strap on and get up to my body weight to do it. Throw a backpack on to get to my body weight. But you don't get to only do this once a week. This is an everyday type thing for me. Do this while doing 500-pound plus squats and deadlifts every week, and then still do stuff like this every day. And that's really what my training is like. This is really and truly what I do. This is one reason we're seeing me make more progress. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.